So some of you may know I've done a cover of Everlong by Foo Fighters. A lot of the time, a comparison I get with my music is Deftones, and I've also heard the joke being made that Everlong is basically a Deftones song but faster, so I fixed it. No, so whenever I was making my EP, I knew I wanted to do some covers, and Everlong was one of the first ones that came to mind, but I didn't just want to do the obvious, make it halftime, make it slow. So I also tuned it down because that's not obvious. So one of the benefits of me playing a baritone guitar for Close Enough to Good Enough is that in the chord progression where normally I'd be going up and up and up, some of those notes would pass the octave break, so instead of going up past the 12th fret, I was able to drop down really, really low, so then it makes my version sound a little bit more different than the original. Another side effect or benefit that comes with that is that because I'm singing the lead vocal line almost half an octave lower than most people would recognize, it means that some of the higher harmonies that I've added are closer in pitch to what people who know the original would be familiar with and will be listening out for, so it's almost made the harmonies into the new lead vocals, which again is just a cool side effect that makes my version stand out a little bit more too and make it a bit more original. Hello, I've waited here for you. So a lot of reverb, I like the atmospheric kind of sound, make it sound a little bit like a choir. I think a lot of people are getting a lot more familiar with production terms and ideas and stuff, probably in big part to Charlie Puth, because I know he's been on a bunch of talk shows and breaks it down quite well on TikTok and stuff too. But one of the things that he's made a lot more recognisable to music listeners is the idea of adding something different each verse and each chorus just to keep the song sounding fresh. That's been a thing for years, decades, whether it's just a case of adding an extra shaker or an extra cowbell to each verse or something, but it just makes it feel like the song is moving and progressing so it doesn't get boring. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. For me, especially being so interested in harmonies and stuff, that was adding extra vocal layers. In the second verse, I added extra harmonies as well as a lower octave, which makes it sound pretty big. Breathe out, so I can breathe you in, hold you in. Which really helps with all of the sludgy, low, sad boy kind of vibe I'm going for with this version. In terms of the instruments, there are 15 guitar tracks. 2 of those are the bass. The most there is ever playing at one time is 11. Which may very well be overkill because, big disclaimer, I'm completely self-taught, so anything I'm saying here is not gospel. This is just how I hear it, know it, and communicate it, I guess. But that section would sound like this. To break that down, what that is a ton of double track guitars. I tend to double track or quad track vocals as well as guitars, so generally what I'll do is I will have different guitar sounds or different harmonies, and I will take one of those and I will pan it as far left and as far right as possible, and then another one a bit closer to center, another one a bit closer to center, and so on and so on. The bass and the lead vocals or lead guitar will always be centered, and then if any of those harmonies are just a straight octave, they will also for the most part be centered as well, and that's just me trying to create a wider, bigger, more full sound. And because I'm not a great producer, in my head I kind of have it that if I pan these all out to their own space, they have more room to do stuff without me having to mix it because I don't know what I'm doing. For the guitars, the first one we have is this really delayed kind of high guitar sound. Quite a kind of post-rocky sound, and then another quite high reverby guitar. You'll hear as we go down, a lot of the guitars hold on to a lot of the low ends, so if there are specific like melodies and harmonic parts that I want to cut through all of that low sound, I'll generally put it in these 2 guitars as backup layers. Other than that, there's what's generally my main guitar sound for Close Enough to Good Enough. When I made it, I just basically named it the Cure sound, which I don't know how accurate that is because I'm only just kind of getting into the Cure, but to me basically that's kind of clean, reverby, a little bit of chorus, kind of atmospheric, and that sounds like this. So there's a little bit of dirt to it, but it's kind of clean too. You can hear everything, keeps the low, keeps the high, it's not super scooped, it's quite a full sound. But then I have this more distorted sound underneath. So that's a lot drier, especially because with everything, all the vocals and everything I do being so drenched in reverb, I do need drier sounds to kind of cut through and really let that distortion and that heaviness be heard. And then when I want to beef it out a bit more and make it sound extra heavy, I have this more kind of typical metal guitar sound, which again double tracked, one left, one right. And then another kind of cleanish reverby sound, just layering reverb basically at this point. So for bass, there is this sound which I use on basically everything now. And it's quite well rounded, holds onto a lot of the low, which obviously is the point of the bass, but also you can hear those high notes come through quite well. And then there is this other bass sound that I use for the bridge coming into the last chorus, just to make it a little bit, just to give the bass a wee bit of a spotlight in the song for once. And then the last two guitars I have are this super clean but really reverby delay kind of post-rock sound for the intro, paired with this super overly reverby distorted sound that I generally use for lead for close enough to good enough stuff, but just use for the intro and a couple of breaks. So for the drums, I'm not a rich boy, so I don't have a real drum kit, I have an electronic drum kit. So I play as much of the drums as I can on that, try to get as many full takes as possible, and then I'll just go over and over and replay the fills until I get them, which I know is very stupid because it's all MIDI, so I could just drag and drop and click, but I don't know, I think it's just like a personal thing where I just want to know that I can do it, even if it is in isolation and not in a full take, but I don't know, there's just something satisfying about being able to, for myself, just know, even though nobody else will care or hear it, but for me I like to know that like I might have had to do 17 takes and play it by itself, but I got that fucking fill. So even though it is MIDI, I do break it down into 4 tracks, so I have one for the kick, one for the snare, one for the toms, and one for the cymbals, and then that just means that I can do a little bit more mixing of my own. So those are all the parts, and all together they sound like this. A lot of harmonies are quite high in the mix on my stuff, and that is by choice. I know sometimes a lot of people like to have their clear, defined lead, but for me, Don't Let Go by En Vogue is a perfect example of the kind of sound that I would love to be able to capture. It's like these 4 strong lead vocals, and it's the combination becomes the lead, not one specific take. And then in heavier music, Alice in Chains would be a really good example of that too, where yes, Liam or Jerry will take a step back and they'll be the backing vocals, or they'll not sing at all. But a lot of the time, the lead vocal is the combination of the two, and it's that harmony that is the attraction, really. And that's kind of the sound I like to get quite often when I can. So that is a quick breakdown of my cover of Everlong by Foo Fighters. You can hear the full version of that, as well as 2 other covers and 8 original songs in the Bandcamp exclusive version of my new EP, Thank You For All You've Done For Me and Even More For What You Never Could. It comes out on Monday the 5th of May, and if you're watching this after that, or a lot after that, I've probably put the covers and everything up on Spotify and everything for free anyway by now. So just go listen to it. Bye!